Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. The first video of 2023. Oh my god, I wanted to say 2022. First video of the year, and it's gonna be a different video than usual because last year I really got into reading and I really want to make book videos. So I thought for my first book video, let's do what I read last year. So that is what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna show you everything that I read, what I thought of it, my ratings. Disclaimer though, I'm a new reader. Also, English is my first language, so reading in English is a little bit slower for me. I read 12 books this year, not a lot. It doesn't matter, we're just gonna get started. By the way, I will link my Goodreads down in the description for you so we can be friends. I'm gonna start with two books that I don't have physically, but the first book I did read was loaned from the library, and since I live in the Netherlands, we don't have that many English books in my library. I just got a random book because they didn't have very popular ones, and it was The Perfect Match from Katie Ford. This is a contemporary romance book. It's not a very popular book. It has only 2,622 ratings on Goodreads, which is not a lot compared to the more popular books, my opinion on this book. So it is a romance book, but you read the story from the perspective of two different women. One is a bit younger, around 20 or so, and the other one, I wouldn't say is about 50. They both have their own love story going on because it's not connected for the rest. They just live together, they talk. For me personally, I can't relate to the older woman. First of all, the age, and like at that point when romance comes into your life, it's so different than when you're young, and when it's like your first love or when you're just getting married, it's very different when you're around 50. So I couldn't relate to her, and also I don't know why, but I just kind of felt uncomfortable sometimes reading her romance. When I'm reading something or just everything in general, I always picture it in my head. I don't know, I just felt uncomfortable reading it sometimes, some parts, but I just wanted to get through her parts because I did like the part of the younger woman. So if they would have just done it from the perspective of the younger woman, I would have liked it a lot better, but that you also read from the perspective of the older woman, I don't really love. I would give this book like a 3 stars. The next book that I don't have physically is It Ends With Us. I don't know where it is. I honestly don't know. It's somewhere in my room. I just can't find it. If you are into reading, you have heard about It Ends With Us by now because it is so incredibly popular. It Ends With Us is also a romance book, but it is about a more sensitive subject. It is a heavy book, but it is a really good book. There's a lot of drama in it, but a lot of serious topics as well, and I think Colleen Hoover did a really great job of portraying the insides of someone's mind when they're going through that. So I believe you read from both perspectives, which I like. You see both sides of the story, which is always just very interesting to me. A plus definitely for this book is that I actually didn't know how it was gonna end. I wasn't sure what was gonna happen. Not a light book, definitely not, but it was so good. I would give this book a 5-star rating. Continuing with Colleen Hoover, It Starts With Us. Pretty recent read since it came out in October. This book wasn't necessary. It Ends With Us had a great ending, and it didn't per se need another book. But when I found out that there was another book coming, I just had to get it. I just had to read it. So I did, and I liked it. Definitely not as good as It Ends With Us, and if this would have been a book on itself, if It Ends With Us didn't exist, this would not be a good book. But it's just, if you've read It Ends With Us, this is a fun and quick read. It adds some new things to the story, but still, this book is incredibly predictable. There was like one new thing added to the story that I didn't really see coming, but for the rest, there were no plot twists or anything. It was just like, I know how it's gonna end. So that made it not much of a page turner for me. However, I did finish it in 2 weeks because I wanted to get through it. It was fun to read about them. So I think I would give this book 3.5 stars. Then I have one other Colleen Hoover book that I've read this year. This is such a good book, I am telling you. Oh my god. Also, again, a romance book. This book is amazing. I can't really tell you what it's about, but I want to because it's so good, and I know I want to make you want to read, but I don't want to give any spoilers away. You just have to read it because it is amazing, and the plot twist, and it's heartbreaking, and it's mysterious in some way. Again, in this book, you read from the 2 different perspectives from the head characters. I liked about this one that you read the present from the woman's perspective, and you read the past of the men's perspective. So it is really fun to read, but it is such a good book, and this was a page turner. Oh my god, I finished this in 1 week. You know how fast that is for me? I think It Ends With Us. It took me 2 months. This took me 1 week because I just really wanted to keep reading and I could not put it down. 5 star. definitely. I'm going to continue with the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. I'm gonna start with Killjoy. Killjoy is, I believe, the last book that was published, but it is the prequel of the series. It is just a fun, quick read. It has 140 pages, so you are done with this very quickly. It doesn't really add anything new to the story. It like kind of introduces the characters and the story. In this book, they play like a murder mystery game for someone's birthday, so it definitely introduces the head character, how she is really good at murder mystery and how she's actually very interested in it. It is a nice introduction for the next book, which is this one. I read this one after, but I don't know how it would be if you read it first. I would just give this like a 3.5 stars. Moving on to the first book of the series, I'm just gonna call it A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I love it. I've definitely found out that murder mystery is so my favorite type of book. Basically, it's about a high school student, Pip. About 5 years ago in her town, a girl was murdered, and the police think that her boyfriend was the killer who killed himself a few days later. But Pip doesn't think it's true, so for her high school paper project, I don't even know, she is going to find out if it's actually the truth or if someone else did it. I really like the story and it's very interesting how it unravels. It's just overall a really good book. 5 star for me. Then the second part, Good Girl, Bad Blood. I don't know if I liked it maybe even better than A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, definitely not less. It's about the same characters, but in this book something new happens and it's actually happening in the present, and that makes it very interesting for me because there's a time pressure of having to figure it out. With this book, it has already happened. With this, it's just all happening in the moment. It just gives such a different vibe to it, so that's why I may have even liked it better. Definitely a 5-star rating for me. Then the third book is As Good as Dead. Also, again, the same characters, but a new story, and again, so very different. I can't really tell you too much about this, but it's just insane. This book is one roller coaster. It is actually a bit of a darker book. The other two were not as dark, but that is also because of something that happens at the end of the second book, and also what happens in this book. I did not see it coming. Oh my god, how this story goes, it is so interesting, and like, how do you even come up with that? But also all the details and everything, it is just, if you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. Like, what? Such a good series, and I definitely recommend you to read it. I'd give this book 4.5 stars. Moving on to another murder mystery book. One of Us, oh wait, One of Us is Lying. This book I definitely liked. 5 walk into detention only for them to come out alive. 5 high school students have detention and one of them dies during detention. Turns out that he was murdered, and it is so interesting. You read from the perspective of the other 4 students, so that is so interesting. You get to see all of their stories, and also they have their own personal drama besides this, but it is a really good story, and the plot twist and how it ends, like, I was just like, oh my god. Really good book. The plot twists are amazing. I really like it. 4.5 stars. Then One of Us is next. When I'm reading a series, I just don't want to read what the other books are about when I'm just reading the first one, because I don't want any spoilers whatsoever, and I just went into it not knowing what it was about. So this book is actually about different characters, but they're connected to the first ones, because one of the head characters in this book is actually the sister of one of the characters in this book, so you already know that person from the first book, which makes it fun, but this you get to read from her perspective as well, and 2 other people. I liked the head characters. I thought they were all very different but very interesting people, and they all again had their own problems. It was heavy. It was like, oh my god, it was dramatic again. Some random person would text people truth or dare, and if you pick truth, then a horrible secret of yours will be revealed, and if you pick dare, you would have to do a dare. That is how the story begins, and it is so interesting. Definitely liked it. Even though it had different characters than the first book, the characters from the first book do come back in this book, so it's not as if it's like a completely separate from the first book. It's not, but I actually liked it a lot. There's a 3rd part coming out of this next year, so this year. Another book that I read is The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. Ledin. So I actually wanted a classic as well. So this is such an interesting book. I believe there's also a movie of this. I haven't seen it. It is a very interesting book. It's very different than the other ones. This book was published in 1967. That is a long time ago. Even though it's pretty old, it's still easy to read. There isn't really one storyline in it. It's just you basically follow a gang. The head character is called Ponyboy. I believe Ponyboy is like, what, 14? 13? He's pretty young, but he's in a gang. The town is like divided in the rich people and the poor people, and the rich people are called the Socks. The poor people are called the Greasers, and they're all gangs. But it is also fun to read, and a bunch of things happen, but it's also so different from the time that we live in right now, because some of the things that happen in this book would be so totally different if they were to happen today. It's not a very thick book, so it is an easy read, but I really liked it. More than I expected. 4.5 stars, I think. Then, the last book that I read is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Of course, we all know the story, so I'm not going to tell you what it is about. I've watched all the movies this year. I had the best time. I really liked the movies, so I thought, let's also read the books now that I'm into reading. But it's actually a children's book, so that does make it easy to read. If you want to read Harry Potter, I recommend you get this version, which is from Mina Lima. Such a gorgeous book. Just the cover alone, it's a hardcover, and it is so pretty. Like, I never actually looked at what kind of version I got of a book because I just wanted to read the story. That I just saw this version of the Harry Potter book and I was like, oh my god, yes, it is so pretty. And what I actually didn't know is that it has 3D pictures in it. It does. That was a complete surprise. It also just has pictures. It's just an illustrated book, and it is just gorgeous and so fun. It makes reading this book 10 times more fun, even though it's already a really fun story. If you want to read Harry Potter, I definitely recommend you to get Mina Lima's version because, oh my goodness, that is such a good book. I believe this was 25 euros. Not even that expensive, in my opinion, for a book. Definitely 5 stars. They were all the books that I read this year. I know it's not a lot. I really hope to do better this year. Hopefully I can find more time to read books, but we'll see. Let me know what your favorite book was this year. I think mine was The Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, because I just really love murder mystery. But Ugly Love is also really, really high up there. I hope you liked it. If you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Let me know if you like more book videos, and I hope I will see you in my next video.